Hi and welcome to this episode. It's a somewhat unusual one where we kind of we reflect, I guess, on the year we've had so far, as we're certainly in H2 now. And it was quite interesting. Back in January, we did a review on 2024. And we were trying to put some predictions down as to what 2025 might look like. Jesus, you weren't here at the time, so you're lucky.
Yeah, I didn't do the prediction, yeah.
But I'm just going to ask you if you could cast your mind back. You might not remember.
Yeah.
But what do you think? What were your sort of predictions looking ahead to 2025?
Well, I don't know if we had any predictions, but I think we had hoped that there would be a bit more stability, in the general markets, and I'm not sure that we've actually got that yet. In that sense, I had hoped that we might be in a situation that we would have geopolitically more peace in the world. We still have the Ukraine situation, which is still happening. We have the problems in Palestine; it's still happening. If we're looking at some of the political and wars that are going on quite close to our borders, which is clearly having an impact on business. And then, of course, I think since then, we've probably had increased unpredictability with our friend Mr. Trump and his, tariff situation, which sort of wake up in the morning and wonder what the latest announcement's going to be, which is also having a great deal of uncertainty. So the things that I'd hoped that we would have had at the beginning of the year, I don't think we have. If anything, I think we've moved into slightly more unpredictability, which is having a negative impact on business generally. I think people are taking a much longer now to make decisions, investment decisions in, sort of major infrastructure projects and so on. So yeah, it's I would say it's intensified since last year.
It's got more intense.
I think so. Yeah, I think it really has got more intense. Yeah.
You also mentioned, earlier in the year, that you were keen to kind of make some, big bold decisions.
Yeah, we have
for Consalia. So perhaps, maybe you can share some of these examples, and then we can introduce Jesus as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that the counterintuitive approach to changing market or difficult markets is to bunker down and actually sort of contain yourself and sort of not launch new ideas and not make sort of innovative steps unless you can see a quick return. And I think one of the decisions that we took at the end of last year, which of course is following through this year, is the introduction of Jesus to the team from a consulting perspective. But also coupled with that is looking at the whole area of AI. At the end of last year, we'd introduced Phoebe, which is our digital version of the account planning toolkit. And we're now sort of embracing other initiatives around the use of AI and Phoebe and beyond. And I think that a lot of that's been driven by some of the initiatives that have emerged, which Jesus has taken an active role in as well. So, one still takes a deep breath when you're kind of looking, does it make business sense to make those sort of bold decisions at a time that your client base is being terribly reserved and constrained in the way that they are investing in sales enablement and sales training per se, is one of the first things that people cut. So our market conditions for the traditional sales training side of what we do is one that it's very weak. The demand is very weak. And I was talking to some colleagues over in America, and it's really huge, the impact that Trump has made on their business, where clients or partners that we have in America have had 75% kind of reductions in revenue in their traditional consulting revenues. And it's not just one company, it's a lot. So I would say that the traditional kind of sales training sector has been hugely impacted with the uncertainty of the market, and also the noise created by AI as well is having an impact. So it's a rather long answer to your question, and I don't want to hog the microphone here, but
No, but I think you set the context really well.
Okay.
And I mean, just on my reflections, is certainly this first half of the year has been one that has been incredibly innovative for Consalia.
Yeah.
And we can see a shift in what people want, and it's been driven. Yeah, the capacity that we're able to do now has been driven certainly by Jesus. But Jesus, so you joined when? January? February?
February.
February the 1st. It feels like you've been here for longer than 6 months already.
Yes.
But how have you found it kind of being parachuted into Consalia? How's the first sort of 6 months?
I think I'm as excited or even more than I was when I started, because something I've been able to confirm is the client's trust. So the amazing portfolio of customers that Consalia had before I joined, and the trust on everything we do. That's driven because we do everything with a high quality standard, right? So I'm quite excited, and as Phil is mentioning the AI, I think we started to reflect ourselves about what is the future about digital in a broader sense, and then we started to think about what's going to be our 2 years, 3 years business plan about that, and then the AI had a good role in the initial conversations, and through the months have been even increasing. And we can see now, even by week, that the AI is changing things on everything that everyone is doing, right? Of course, AI is not perfect. There are several kind of features or functions that are not doing properly, or the human is still the king. But embracing the AI on whatever they are doing well is, I think, is quite important. That's the reason why we introduced that into our plan, and we are going to be soon announcing great things on AI.
I think the one part of our business that has continued to grow is the education side, which is the traditional part of what we've been doing. I say traditional, but the demand, I think, for the level 6 undergraduate degree programs is incredibly strong. Sadly, the level 7, in the wisdom of the UK government to stop the masters, is going strong, but it will stop next. Unless Philipson gets sacked and someone new comes into the cabinet as education secretary and sort of backtracks. But let's assume that it's not going to happen. But there's also incredible loyalty and interest in the exec masters kind of programs that we run, which are also, if we look at the revenue line, kind of expanding from last year. So that part of our business is stable and it's increasing. The business has increased. You've got the sort of tradition versus new playing, and it just shows you can't afford to put all your eggs in one basket. If we'd just been in the consulting space without the education, we would have been in a very difficult position now, I think. But the fact is that we've got that. It's been run incredibly well by the academy team, to your point about quality. But then it's given us the breathing space in a way to be able to explore, sort of what's new, what's next. with our clients. But what you said about trust is really, I mean, the trust we have from the alumni is just exceptional. It's incredible. It bowls me over every time that we
Yeah.
have people who've graduated and who talk about, what a difference it's made to their lives. So this blend of tradition and new, I think, is going to be really interesting moving forward.
I think it's a different level of trust from whatever I've been seeing before, because at the end, the alumni have been through 2 years, 3 years program.
That's right.
They've been quite engaged. We are transforming not just the way of working, but their way of life and personally as well.
Yeah, it
So
is.
it's a more profound transformation,
Yeah,
and this builds ties between them and us
yeah,
that gives us trust is like a word that may have like different levels,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
different interpretations, and that's what I like from these months to have the opportunity to talk to some of the alumni, or even some people that are not alumni but are the people in charge of the sales ops or L&D, etc., that are engaged with us,
yeah.
and through all these programs they are having this trust on us
Yeah.
as then we can open the door to explore new avenues that previously was not, even in consulting or digital, AI, etc., right? Yeah.
It is amazing the impact of the programs have on people both at a personal and at a professional level.
Yeah.
And we had graduation, didn't we?
We had graduation, and I just love graduation. It's just a chance to, of course, celebrate their success. But what I love about it as well is you meet the families, and you realise that actually it's not just the individuals that go through the program, but it's
The full family.
they
The
need
whole family.
the whole family go through it,
It
because
goes, yes.
it takes time, it takes study, it's all those sort of deadlines, and hearing them talk about their struggle, but also seeing all the smiling faces at graduation, and how proud parents are, and or partners are about what their other halves have achieved. It's fantastic. I mean, it's really heartfelt, and it's quite profound. And there's a connection between trust and innovation, which I think is interesting, in the sense that we sometimes are unaware of what we call the ripple effect that you get from people who go through that program, who are beginning to take the journey inside their own companies. So it's so interesting listening to Ivano's, I don't know if you listened to the podcast, the most recent one, so talking about things like creating bingo, gamification, the gamification of the sales mindset. So they have this bingo game that he's introduced in his sales team, where they spot those that are demonstrating use of the sales mindsets. And it's just a little thing. I just love it. The fact that you are finding people are, in the safe space of the masters, are taking these ideas and then working out how they're going to change the culture of their sales teams, complex sales teams, all over, global sales teams, through their own initiatives, and the journey continues.
Yeah, and I certainly a takeaway that I get as well is, all of a sudden when people finish, they graduate their sales education programs, they always say, well, what's next?
Yeah.
What do I do with all that time that I had invested over the last 2 years?
Yeah.
And it's a great question to have, and as you say, it's a great source of innovation.
Yeah.
For us as well.
Yeah.
So we're constantly thinking, what next? How can we support this lifelong learning sort of initiative that hopefully our programs do inspire?
I think that we're in a world that's incredibly uncertain, and things chop and change, and there's no doubt that we need to be agile, as indeed our clients need to be agile, in the way that you sort of think through, what should the business model be moving forward? What sort of go-to-market channels should we start exploring? And we can see it with our clients. The pressure on businesses to achieve short-term results with the need to develop the business for long-term is always difficult to manage, spinning plates all the time. But the constant that we have is our sort of education platform, which helps, provides people a space to think both short and long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which kind of brings us on, I think, nicely to a question I want to pose to Jesus, which is, you've already implemented quite a lot of change within Consalia, certainly in how we talk about our consulting practice and how we now view bespoke practice. But perhaps you can share with us how you've developed Consalia's practices in those areas. And I've got lots of evidence, but I won't take away the spotlight. But how Consalia is becoming more agile.
Yeah, I think at Consalia we've been working for a few years now, trying to get the best sales business programs in terms of BSc, MSc accredited by the University Middlesex, being the only one in Europe and US. But I think when I started and we started to have the first meetings with the customers, very quickly raised up that there are some customers that are ready to take the commitment to go through long programs. But some other ones that maybe their industry is more agile, or maybe their culture or where they come from, they need a different approach, right? So maybe they have an allowance. We've seen that in many customers. They have an allowance per employee per year, which normally is below what is the cost for a 2-3 years program. So I think with all the modules and the bespoke modules we have, we've been able to create a catalog that is very flexible in terms of the content, but also in terms of the delivery. Even we are starting new conversations that previously was complicated, because, for instance, one of the customers recently asked us if we could split one of the programs in 2 or 3 years to accommodate their policies, right? And go under the budget they have for every year. I think this has been triggered because we opened the conversation on modules and on flexible catalog, etc. Right? So I think we've tried to put this into value in front of the customers, and understanding that every situation is different. We of course love the long programs because are accredited, are formal, are the most complete ones. But sometimes we find situations where customers are not ready yet to take these kind of long commitments, right? Even in a market where the sales professionals are changing roles or companies every 2 or 2.5 years, it's difficult to make a kind of a long-term commitment. But sometimes these kind of small steps, like a 3 months program or an intervention especially designed for them, is something that first builds awareness of us and builds on our trust. And second, put the first step to go further into further programs and further interventions and further type of relationship with the customer. So I believe this is what we focus on. Of course, we refresh the value proposition to understand that Consalia is not just a business school. We have to do more steps on that direction. We have a great foundation on the business school, and we are using this in consulting and digital. But we have these 3 practices that combined together is where the magic starts to come.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, just in terms of how we, work from my point of view, how we share with our customers what Consalia is capable of doing, has been a huge shift in this first half of the year. Developing the catalogue. So, for instance, Consalia sits on top of a huge amount of IP developed through our BSc, our postgraduate certificates, masters, etc., etc. But when you break it down into its component parts, the modules, what's included in the modules, and almost like a puzzle. You can share that with clients, and they can kind of say, "Oh, well, I'm really interested in this part, and I'm really interested in that part. How can we link the two together? This is a source of innovation, and I think it really helps us become more agile.
Yeah, definitely.
And already, I think we're seeing some of the benefits of approaching conversations like that as well. And then, of course, going back to what you were saying about the trust, these modules have all been validated by the university. They've got that stamp of approval, so it's, the quality is assured.
Yeah.
And it's just how we deliver, how we can respond to, again, what you were saying, like the clients' needs.
Yes.
They might not want to put someone on a 3-year program, or 2-year program.
Which connects very well with what Phil was saying about the uncertainty, right? We see on customers that are more reluctant to do big investments or long-term investments because the situation may change, right? There will be new tariffs coming next week or things like that. So I believe that this flexibility gives us the power to continue growing the business from the bespoke and through the trust of generating good outcomes through these small mini programs, I will call it, or mini modules. Then is when we can go to a step further into a different dimension of partnership with our customers.
And it's, the other shift that I've seen is just the speed in which we can respond to client demands. And I think there's this sort of, as you were saying, clients want answers kind of quickly. If you wait a few weeks or a month to kind of respond, some of the demands that can change. Yeah. And the complexity of trying to get a deal sort of over the line is becoming harder.
Yeah.
So you gotta show yourself to be fast and agile to respond.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's I think that's been a big shift in the last 6 months is being able to look at all of that IP and unravel it and then put it together into bite-sized chunks. But the interesting thing is that a lot of the beauty, I think, about a lot of the foundational principles on which our design of bespoke programs have been done is around work-based learning. And so you've got that combination of theory and practice, which is deep-rooted into the culture. So it's quite easy to chunk a 2-year program down into a 3-month initiative, much shorter, quarterly driven, perhaps, using the principles of face-to-face, peer learning sets, in some cases as part of what could eventually be an accredited journey over a period of time. If people want that accreditation, it's so in that sense, it's been very interesting to see the way the catalogue has been developed.
Yeah, and it's been great as well to see our clients coming to us.
Yeah,
pushing us.
Yeah.
They're almost from we talk about tactful audacity, proactive creativity. Yeah. Obviously, we try and live these values.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's great when the client is really encouraging us to, develop and innovate. Yeah. And I think we've seen quite a lot of that over the last 6 months. So I'm thinking, for instance, negotiation. Thinking online content's been. This has been driven by demand. Which is great to see.
Yeah, it is. It goes beyond demand. It also goes into co-investment. It's interesting that when, some clients, sort of have a particular problem and they're prepared to invest in the in the design phase of a new initiative, knowing that it'll benefit them in the long term, but also knowing that it's something that we can use, for the broader sales profession community. I suppose that comes back to trust as well. It's just so interesting when you get this sort of degree of collaboration happening with clients to drive innovation. But you're right. Sometimes it comes from them. They've got a problem that they need solving, and it's always more difficult to be proactively creative, as we know. But we've, I would say that we are doing that with certain of the initiatives that we're now kind of looking at that are yet to be announced and launched. Not quite sure how far we want to go on this podcast call to talk about what's going to happen quite soon, but
Yeah, be careful what you say.
what we say.
Not this close off. Yeah, because
Yeah. So I guess I kind of want to shift gear a little bit.
Okay.
And talk a bit more around AI in sales, as you've already alluded to. The fact that AI is here, is developing at a rate of knots at the moment. Just how has AI actually sort of impacted sales practices so far? I'm kind of taking that question and thinking about how it's impacted on how I operate.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you will, and Phil, you'll have a view on sort of the wider we, the greater we, on how AI has actually impacted sales. So, Hezes, perhaps you can...
Well, I can start the conversation.
But
definitely Phil is doing very interesting interviews through the global research. And probably he has also a lot of insight. So, as I said, AI is not perfect yet, right? So there are many things that AI do better than humans, and many things that AI do much worse than humans, right? I think in sales, the AI should be seen as the way to augment the human condition, not to substitute, never ever, right? I think there is a lot of fear about this still in some industries or companies. I think we've seen recently some reports of CMOs and chief sales officers talking about AI versus last year's, and the percentage of people understanding that they have to better understand the capabilities of AI. They need to see if they can embrace on certain features, etc., is growing from the ones that initially was like a reactive protection kind of a measure. AI now is helping a lot on doing research, on doing meeting preparations, right? Some of the most advanced tools have agents, or what we call agentic workflows, which is like a kind of a combination of different agents at different stages to do something. We've seen companies that are building custom agentic workflows for people, for customers, for companies. We've seen a lot of software, new software, AI-driven, that is jumping into the space. The old, which is not so old, but CRM software are trying to battle with all this AI. I mean, we are looking into the news all the time, and we see Microsoft firing 9,000 people due to AI, McKinsey, for a different reason, firing 3,000 people due to AI. It's not that they are substituting, it's that some of the features or some of the capabilities are made very well by AI, that the human it will take ages, and it's better to focus the humans in whatever the humans are best and the machines are not able to do now, or at least in the short term, right? I think I see AI as something that evolves every week, in everything, because we talk about sales, but then we need to talk about legal, for instance. You can think about, well, what are the tools that can help to a sales professional? But then when you start to talk about, it's a new world, you have the artificial intelligence, you have the agents, you have the workflows, you train the agents. Maybe sometimes you train the agents with third-party content. And there has been some laws in the court in the US and here in the UK as well. I think it's with Anthropic, with Get Images, right? So there are some things about how you train all this new technology, and what this who is owning this training, right? So even if you think about legal, there are a lot of legal questions, right? So it's not just business questions or people questions. So imagine all these HR teams that are working with AI now for recruitment massively, but there are people in HR starting to build the new organization of the future, and some of the boxes is an AI, it's not a person. So So we need to understand I understand people having fear and reaction to this as, the other waves. As I can share with you a small example of mobile. The mobile telephony, which is very common now, when it started, people I can say because it's too long in the time, Telefonica, in the headquarters in Spain, they were saying this is going nowhere. This was only it was a head off. It was not even a directorship, right? And there were people reluctant to go through it because they wanted to protect the status quo, the fixed line. So this has happened with many, many things. It was with internet, with mobile, with electricity back in the years. So now it's a new era, it's a new transformation. So of course there will be a lot of companies coming in and failing. That always happens. But we need to understand what are the capabilities now, and we need to understand how they evolve week by week, month by month, because these change super fast, right? I think when you hear all the wise people around AI working from DeepMind or from, you have a lot of people very, very much knowledge than me in AI, and everyone is in the same position, right? So it's AI comes here to augment the human condition, to improve, not to substitute, right? Because there are still limitations on the most advanced AIs. I don't know about the future. I don't know if there will be a supercomputing AI. There are some predictions by 2030, this will be even a very different world. But it's very difficult to predict because AI is helping us to do things that. So, for instance, the other day, J.P. Morgan said that 95% of the analysis for an IPO is made now by AI. And previously, they needed a team of 6 people working 2 weeks. So if you think about this in a global perspective, there are going to be a lot of tasks and things that now we will be doing much faster than previously. So the speed of evolution and innovation is going to be much faster, not because AI is going to be doing it, it's because AI is going to be helping us to do the innovation much faster, right? So I believe it's really a transformative moment where we are, and it will affect everything. It will affect everything. But of course, there are a lot of uncertainties yet, how to use it. Many clients are asking us how we start, where do we start to use, what should we trust, what is the right tool, etc. And that's why we cannot disclose, but we will start to talk about more into AI in the next months towards our global sales transformation event in the London Stock Exchange by the end of November.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you say. I feel the way I perceive AI at this moment in time and being, trying to get the most out of it is it all comes down to productivity. And me as a salesperson, having got all of these AI tools sort of at my fingertips, is how productive can I be? And I think well, I can always do more, and I can, encourage people to view AI in that sense, to say, can you increase your own productivity by 100%, 200%, 500%, because you've got an assistant that can do so much of the manual tasks, so you can focus on the things that add value. Having said that, I also know it takes time.
Yes.
You got to test it. You got to create prompts. You got to identify the areas of your practice where you can really see the impact of leveraging the AI tools. And so, for me personally, my own reflection on it is just like any work-based learning project. You start with a question: how can I use AI to improve an area of my sales practice? And you test it, and then you reflect, and then you iterate, and then you apply it again. But always through the lens of sort of, am I being more productive?
I think one of the things we should probably work and start to discuss more with customers is around the word trust connected to AI. authenticity, right? And how this connects with our sales mindsets. Because I see AI should be something that help us to improve on how to use sales mindsets, right?
And this is something we raised back in January. Sales leaders, AI companies, we kind of raised the concern about authenticity.
Well, the
and
very word
trust.
is artificial intelligence. Yeah, so you got the conflict between the word artificial, which suggests it's not real, it's artificial, and authenticity, yeah, which is trust. So maybe we should invent AAI, authentic artificial intelligence. Maybe that could be
Maybe.
it's a bit of a mouthful.
Should we copy right now?
But yeah.
Do you still share those concerns? I mean, has there been any shifts that you've seen since January?
I think that, I think there is going to be an awful lot of work around the legality, to the point you're making earlier about sort of compliance and making sure that the source of the data from which you are, using to create the intelligence is legitimate. And I think there's a huge question mark still about that, and people aren't going to release their IP until there are stricter frameworks around the legal constructs. And we're going to this kind of process ourselves. How do we protect our own IP in an AI world, where, we spend years developing projects. We've got so much IP, you just don't want it out in the big world unless you have a means of controlling it. So I think I'm sensing still, on the one hand, there's, we're seeing wider adoption of AI. I'm actually finding less adoption with our clients than I thought I would do by this stage. That they are not using some of the basic tools to help improve the productivity of what they do.
That's interesting. Why is that?
I'm not sure at the moment. I think it's like any new skill. You need to practice, don't you? And, to your point, sort of earlier, you sort of reflect, you practice, you revise. But I'm finding quite often I'm in situations in workshops we're running with clients where you're, for example, talking about the account planning toolkit, and you're starting to look at customer insights, to the mindset of client centricity. And what you can now do in that space with AI is infinitely quicker than, honestly, it's a pleasure to be able to get a strategy grid completed in a short space of time.
Yeah.
If you train the AI tool to give you that data. But I'm finding that very few people at the moment, I'm sure it's going to quickly take on, but I don't know. I think the resistance is, it's like people have got Copilot, but how many people actually use it, to its full potential? I don't think I'm using Copilot as much as I should. I'm using ChatGPT a lot. But I just think it's one of those things that people are going to, over time, start using and then seeing how productive it could be.
We've seen one of the surveys that we've seen from it's around a number of CEOs or C-levels that are taking into account AI as a top 3 priority, which is more than 80-90%. But then they have another data, which is which ones are really executing something, which is below 50. And I think that's because many people I think everyone is perceiving that AI, they have to have a role in AI, they have to use the AI, but don't know exactly how to do it yet.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right. So that's the reason why I think as a thought leaders in sales space, we should. I mean, we are going to be having a position on AI very soon as well.
Yeah. It's quite. I would say that everything that we have done in the sales performance improvement space is driven by a question: does it work? Does it work? And I think for years, before the education side of the business, for years we've been kind of running sales training programs. We did that global research project in 2004 to 2008. And that was quite a big aha moment. You know, in those days, does sales training work? Does it make a difference enough to justify the investment that customers are making? And the answer was no. I mean, it wasn't in its own right. It wasn't actually changing the needle in any way. So this question, does it work? This is filtered through into transforming our business into a sales education business to begin with. Now we've refocused on consulting. Is driven by this question, does it work? So AI, does it work? Is it actually going to give us the increase in productivity that we need? Is it going to give the, back to that human connection, the sort of critical reflection that we talk about? Do you expect an AI agent to give you the answers? Or do you expect an AI agent to challenge the question?
I think time's going to tell.
Time will tell.
But I do think that that as a human, the way we need to think and the way that we exercise our own logic needs to somewhat shift a bit in the advent of this AI era, and we need to apply our critical thinking in different ways, and that's going to be crucial. But I think at this stage in time, for any salesperson looking to have a competitive edge on anyone else, they should be really considering how they leverage AI. But thinking, like critical thinking, is so important. Questioning, as you say, questioning the data, questioning the prompts, questioning how this can be translated. How do you as a salesperson want to use this sort of data or information or the outputs of AI in your sales?
The nice thing of the AI is that it's nothing new. It has been for more than a decade. The difference is the large language models that democratize the use of AI for everyone. Before, you needed like a data scientist, a programmer, so to do all this kind of stuff. Now you have in natural language, you ask, and then this is transformed into ones and zeros into a program that does the job, right? So I think one of the wiser comments I've heard recently is on the critical reflection connected to the AI. So they say it's like the first 20% is the human preparing the prompts or doing the right or choosing the right AI tool to make things. Then there is like a 60 or 60% of the job done by the AI, which is all the groundwork on researching on different companies, company reports, financial stats, etc. And then there is a last 20%, which is on the human to understand if this is correct and do critical reflection before presenting anything to anyone, right? So that's how we should see the AI, like a tool that augments our function and asks us to be faster on repetitive and maybe things that, because if you have 1 hour to do a research, well, you have 1 hour, you get to a certain point, but maybe 10 minutes of prompting gives you an answer that you will need like 5 hours or 6 hours or 2 days. So then you can use the rest of the time that is saved to really think about the last 20% and how to have this conversation and nurture the relationship with your customer. That's how I see it, at least.
So then, looking ahead at the second half of the year.
Are you asking for predictions?
I'm asking for predictions.
You're helping us on that front.
Yeah, but a few more days, he's the first one to ask. So.
I'm asking for your predictions.
So predictions on what level? Will the war in Ukraine be finished by December? I remember having a dinner party. We were laying bets as to when will the war, sort of be finalized. I remember it surprised me. People were saying by April time. This year. Difficult to know, isn't it? So, predicting the next 6 months, I don't know. Will the tariff situation have settled down by then?
I think the tariffs is going to be up and down all the time. You know, it's like
You
it's
think
like a
Trump is
dance,
just
one
gonna
step,
throw these
one step from.
little hand grenades?
Yeah.
It was interesting. I was talking to someone in Vietnam yesterday, or was it this morning? Yesterday, and
Time is fast.
because Vietnam had what 47% tariffs at one stage.
Yeah.
I said, how is it in Vietnam at the moment with tariffs? They said, it's okay. It's 20%. Yeah, we can live with that. You know, they were okay, but anyway. But I don't know. Will it still be the same? I don't know. I think there's going to be a global recession. You know, I think that, you know, the problem that we have is not just the tariffs, it's debt and the ability of particularly the US economy to service its debt. And that's going to be a constraining effect on business.
The big, beautiful bit. It's tripping.
That's that's adding. Yeah, it's like a grenade that hasn't quite exploded, but at the point that the debt to income ratio is just unsustainable, it's going to be pretty hard. So maybe we'll come up with some other way of rethinking how finance models should work in terms of building economic confidence. And I don't know. I think it's you know, the growth years that we had maybe 20 years ago. I'm not sure that we're going to see that in the next year or so. You know,
No, but
it's going to be
I
really
think it's very difficult to predict anything, right? So, I was looking into some news that we had in the last days. I don't know if you've noticed that, like companies like Perplexity, or OpenAI, they're investing to create their own chipsets. So it's a tremendous move from software to hardware into the value chain. So I think again, I don't want to focus all the conversation on AI because we have so many things, but it's going to be so transformative for the tech industry.
What about climate change? I know we've spoken about technology, and we, you know, the data centers need water. We have drought in the UK. So how are we going to cool the data centers that are hoping to build in the UK? I'm being
connected to this. These companies are also thinking about to create their own nuclear power plants at a company level.
Okay, so uranium is manufactured in 3 countries.
Yeah, I'm not the expert.
They're all in heavily disputed areas.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going off track really, but I mean, there's so many kind of levers that affect business. It's not just AI. It's also, you know,
Resources,
natural phenomena. It's scarcity. You know, we're doing a lot of work with a mining company at the moment. We know that there's only 80 years left of copper that can be mined out of the mines that are currently in existence. So you need copper to drive electrification.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll start
Phil,
building.
you are painting a very bleak picture.
We need to be positive.
I'm always an optimist.
And
that.
these are things
Bleak.
that are outside of our control. So let's focus in on Consalia.
That's a good one.
Let's look at the 6 months ahead. What would you want to
Well,
see?
actually, I think we are definitely going to have a better 6 months, so that it's 6 months ahead than we've had in the first 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it'll be better.
We've had quite a good first 6 months.
Yeah, but it will be better.
You want better, okay?
No, but I agree with this because if you think about that, on the first 6 months, there has been so many things happening, so much changes. So people now is more prepared for continue with more changes, right? I hope.
But I think,
I have to say, since we've started these sort of podcasts and discussions, when has it not changed? Change has been on a constant thing, and our clients must be used to it by now.
I don't think they are. I think the level. Sorry, I'm being negative slightly, but I think, you know, we've talked on your last sales frequency episode about fatigue. There's so much change going on, and that people are exhausted.
Yeah.
There's so many things going on. So I think it's I think it's tough. It's a tough whole world out there. But there's always, back to being optimistic. There's always an opportunity in whatever situation you're faced with. There'll always be an opportunity.
Well, I learned that when in my when I was in Accenture years ago. I was surprised in my early years that there was an economic downturn, and this is the moment where consultants start to invest and see opportunities. So it's like the trigger to see these opportunities. When you see consultants really investing and doing all this kind of stuff, then the economy goes up again.
Yeah.
And I had the chance to see this at least twice.
Yeah.
The first one was I was surprised the first time.
Yeah.
The second one I was more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to be bold to do these investments in a moment where the economy is going down. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
So I wonder, with all the layoffs that you mentioned earlier within the consulting groups, whether they say automation is helping us reduce, or is it that actually there's less consulting going on and they're laying off people because they haven't got to work?
I think the
How
world
do you
of
show up in what? I suspect it's a bit of both.
I think the world of consulting is gonna be changed
Yeah.
now, because even if you don't know how to do consulting, you have amazing ChatGPT that can help you to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I think that McKinsey made a shift, because they were like JP Morgan is saying, like, there are a lot of manual tasks that can be done by the AI, but still AI is not giving the full 100% solution. So they are refocusing on that part, which is the human element, right? And that's what probably consultants must do. We need to embrace AI because everyone else is doing it. It's not just if you want to do it or not. I mean, everyone is doing it. So you need to understand how to embrace it, what to embrace it on, and then use it in a way that you are still competitive and provides value to the companies yourself in a different perspective, right? Yeah. So I think this is transforming, right? Many things of the world we know now.
Great. Well, I guess that's reasons for hope, I guess, with the advent of AI.
Always.
Change is a source of innovation, Phil. That's what I'm taking from what you just said.
Necessity is the mother of innovation.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one.
That's true.
And I think for me is, it's all about productivity to gain a competitive advantage. But thank you very much. And let's see. Let's check in January next year.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.